Okay, I want to let you guys know real quick what it is that made me decide to start using this form for my words. It's because since I was little, I would prattle about something, and people would say, I don't have time for that, go write it down. So I started writing down everything. I mean, I've written hundreds of thousands of words just in the past 5 years. I write every thought that I have comes either out my mouth or out my hands into a document, right? And, and it's because this voice, my mom voice, the voice of this recording, the voice you're listening to, my mom voice, is something people need to hear. They want to hear it. They don't want to read essays from mom. They want to hear mom speaking the truth. Okay? And I'm going to tell you a little bit about my voices, right? My child voice was crushed repeatedly. All I wanted to do was be a singer, and I had the most beautiful voice. And everybody who listened to me told me, you have the most beautiful singing voice. But in my daily life, every time I started to sing, someone slapped me upside the head. So, it was just too much. And in fact, I remember getting a good solid beating for taking Olivia Newton-John's record, Back to Basics, I think was the name of it, the first one, the one with, Mary Skeffington and The River's Too Wide and I Honestly Love You on it, whichever album that is. And I memorized it, right? I took it into my bed, took my little Barbie record player, took my mother's favorite record. Now let's hold on to that for a second. And I listened to it very, 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 very quietly, because if I had woken her up, I wouldn't be allowed. And I memorized every single word. And then I was so lit up by the fact that I knew the song by heart that I started singing. 4 years old, sitting on the top bunk bed with my pink record player and my mother's favorite record, the one she couldn't figure out how it kept getting scratched, where all those little scratches are coming from, in front of me on my bed, right? And so I've got my legs crossed. I'm sitting on this orange and white granny square blanket that my grandmother had made me. It's like 9 rows of orange and 9 rows of white, and it was a twin size blanket. And I belted out. Please forgive me, because my voice hasn't been used in a long time. But I said, Mary Skeffington, close your eyes and make believe that you are just a girl again. And it was the most beautiful thing that had ever come out of my mouth. And I was so excited. And my mother came in, and she beat me mercilessly for days for wrecking her favorite record. This is to let you guys know what happens when you beat your children. Stop it, right? When my own child did something very similar, hello, Rosebud, I love you, did something very similar, right? And I was like, you broke my favorite, what happened to my CD? And they came to me kind of guilty and said, Mom, I'm sorry, I just loved the songs so much. And it was a CD that I had made myself called my Top 100 Songs. And it was all the inspirational songs, the things that motivated me to be happy in that hell that we were living in. Okay. But this all happened. I'm going through all of this about music because I started a song when I was just a little girl. Just a little girl. And when my mother finally took the minute to hear me sing it, our relationship changed forever. And I was singing the song to my little alien, my baby weirdo who never crawled, but instead rolled across the floor like the roller of a steamroller. He would go roll, 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 stop, turn, roll, 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 stop, turn. It was the funniest thing. He never pulled up on the furniture. He never stood up. Not even in his crib. And then one day he rolled into the center of our living room, and he stood up. And I went, oh my God, Joe, you stood up. And I scared him, and he fell. Okay, well, that's my lesson. Don't freak him out next time, right? And instead of crying or giving up, he stood up again. And he looked at me. And I was just smiling, just grinning. And he grinned at me. He was so happy that he fell down again. And he spent the entire day, and I'm not joking you, from like noon until about 2 a.m. learning to walk. This boy spent 14 hours determined He was 12 months old now, exactly 12 months old to the day, not 1 year old, but 12 months old. And therefore, he was a big boy now and was not going to lay on the floor any longer. And he stood up and he fell down, and he stood up and he fell down, and he stood up and he fell down. And then he got frustrated. Of course he did. After about an hour, he just threw this screaming fit, kicking, screaming, pounding the floor like a 5-year-old. I've never seen him like that. And when I went running over to him, he stopped and he looked at me and he held his hand up. So I backed up and I sat down, and he started kicking and screaming again, right? Like it's so funny. But I was like, okay, let him vent, right? And he finished his thing. It only took about 2 minutes. And he stood up again, tears all over his face, puffy, crying eyes, tears all over his face. But he did it again. And at this point, my next door neighbor comes over, or no, my downstairs. This was the downstairs neighbor. The next door neighbor wasn't home from work yet. The downstairs neighbor comes up, and she opened the door, and she's like, "What the hell are you doing to that baby?" Right? Like fall. I'm hearing bump, bump, bump on the floor, and every so often he just screams, and then bump, bump, bump on the floor, and then he starts screaming. Like, what are you doing to him? And I said, come in and watch. Like, it was the funniest thing. Her name was Carol. And Carol, if you hear me. But she came in and she sat with me, and together we just went at each other for like hours, right? It must have been 6:30, 7 o'clock, because this is about the time that her husband and my next door neighbor came home. They worked together doing day labor construction. And both of them now are sitting in my living room, right? It was so funny. And and they hung out for a minute and they left, and then my husband, who I wasn't married to then, came home and sat down, and it's like, you got to see what this boy has been doing all day. You've got to see this. And he's like, you need to pick him up and put him to bed. He's hurting himself. I'm like, no, but he won't let me touch him. Why would I put my hands on him if it's going to make him scream? Just leave him be. And so we just watched. And finally, at about probably around 2 a.m., it was late, really late. He took his first step. He stood up, he stepped forward, and then sat down rather than falling down. Then he stood up, took 2 steps, and sat down. And so, he pushed, but then he learned how to rest. And then he turned to me, like pivoted on his foot, and took 10 steps and walked to me. He came to me. And it was something. It was so beautiful and what I learned from that is that never, ever, 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 ever give up. Never. Nobody will ever take my voice away again. And so I'd like to spend just a second, if you'll tolerate me, and sing to you the song that my little girl self-wrote that actually made my mother hear me. Okay, I'm going to take a sip, and I'm sorry, like I said, my voice is unused. And Aunt Debbie, when I was in Wisconsin, and you asked me to sing for you, I need you to know that the person that was with me had crushed my voice so completely that if I had begun to sing, he would have teased me and tortured me about it, and I couldn't. It wasn't about you. Okay, thank you. I love you. So this is my song. This is for you, because you inspired me. You and the Star of David singers inspired me. Okay, and so okay, it's called "I Am Who I Am," and it's simple. It went, I am who I am, you see not who you want me to be. I am someone of my own, someone you have never known. Just look and I'll let you see. I am who I am, you see. And that was it. And I was singing that over and over and over again. I was about 17. It was just before I met my husband, and she came to me and she said, that's the same song that you tried to sing to me when you were little. And I said, it is. And she said, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. And our relationship changed forever because my mother learned to step back and let me be who I am. And this is all in service of my darling Peaches, my Peachy Pie baby, I love you, and thank you for teaching me today how to let go some and let you stand up on your own instead of trying to hold your hand. Go walk, baby, go run. Mama's so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. Okay? And my other two children, the one that taught me the value of being there every second because she was constantly trying to die. She had bad asthma and it was constantly trying to kill her. And I was there and she actually said to me when she was grown, just like, well, at least I gave you a hobby. I told her, it was everything I could do just to keep you alive. And she said, well, at least I gave you a hobby. And she did. So thank you to my hobby child, And thank you to my alien who taught me, my very first child who taught me that people don't always do things in the order that they're supposed to do. That doesn't make them worth any less. And so, on behalf of the impoverished, LGBTQI plus community, the racially, disparate, everybody who's hopeless and silenced, stand up now. Stand up and go take your vote. A vote of no confidence will remove him. That's the point. That's why our founding fathers gave it to us. Stop whining that you have no recourse and go do what the Constitution allows you to do and make a change. Okay? And that's my mom voice day for now. So I love you guys all. I gotta go eat something, but ta-ta for now.